Did one of us have something they want to say? Oh, it's too late. Never mind.
Well, we said something.
Yeah.
It was me yelling at Google.
Well, I didn't know that. I mean, I thought that we had to do two virgin sacrifices. So Dorian, I'm awfully sorry about that. If I would have known you were going to do a virgin sacrifice too, I wouldn't have done that. So that's really my fault.
Yeah, we got so much to clean up after this. I don't know.
Well, at least we have a place we can store the bodies, so we don't have to worry about that.
All I do is sacrifice Smurfs, so whatever.
just to let us know that when we're going live, Loki.
We've already been live.
What? So we probably have some new people joining us, so we're going to introduce ourselves. My name is Lilokin.
I'm Loki's witch, or Loki.
Oh, you interrupted. What is this? What is that? Oh.
You interrupted me, bitch.
Sorry. Just because you're hosting. I'm sorry. I won't do that again. I'm sorry.
And our guest tonight is Raul from the Church of Satan. So we're very happy to have him. He's been on my channel before, but this is the first time on Heathen Haven. So we're really excited to have him on our channel.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about how you got into the Church of Satan, and kind of I know that you have several social media sites that I've been checking out, and maybe you can share those with us too.
Sure, yeah. So I got involved in Satanism like in my mid-teens or so. I got into the underground art scene in New York City and into industrial music and that kind of extreme outsider culture. And through there, I discovered several artists who were Satanists, who were also members of the Church of Satan. So I kept up with them and their work throughout the years. And I also read up on Anton LaVey. And when I was an early teenager, about like 15 or so, you know, I thought it was interesting, but I didn't really connect with it yet. I wasn't ready for that. I came back to it later, like when I was 17 or so, after I discovered that a lot of the artists that I was into were Satanists and members of the organization. So I figured, well, let me go back to these books and see what they're all about. And I realized that there was actually more to it than just like that edgy aesthetic, right? Because that was what turned me off at first. You know, I was like, oh, okay, Satanist, that's pretty, corny at first, I thought. But when I read the actual philosophy, I realized I actually been living like this my whole life. And I was told by other people, hey, you should check out this stuff, and I think you'd really connect with it. So I realized that I actually have been living as a Satanist throughout my youth in New York, and I decided to identify myself as such. And so I started becoming more involved with the underground art scene, doing promotion and DJing. I've been opening for some bands and putting on concerts for several musicians who were one way or another related to the Church of Satan. So I did that for a few years, and after a while, after several concerts which were pretty successful, I decided to officially join the organization because I figured, you know, I was already kind of working with them. I might as well make it official. So I became an official member, and I started to continue my collaboration with other Church of Satan members from that point on.
Yeah. So it sounds kind of like you were already sort of, it was more like there was a philosophy that fit your point of view rather than you having a point of view that was trying to fit their philosophy. Exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of what we prefer. We don't proselytize. We don't try to convert people. You know, we put our philosophy out there, and if people identify with it, that's great. They don't even have to join the Church of Satan. Like we don't really encourage that. We actually discourage more people from joining than anything. you can identify as a Satanist and live your life according to your own nature. And, as long as you have that bedrock foundation of LaVey's work, you're a Satanist. And if you want to work with other Satanists, if you want to showcase your life as a Satanist, then you can join the Church of Satan. And that's really what the organization is about. It's about showcasing the work and the activity of other Satanists to show the world, like, these are what Satanists are doing. This is Satanism in action. And these are the many ways that it can be applied, because that's the thing with Satanism. It's not just one perspective. It's all kinds of perspectives. It's different opinions, different aesthetics. You can have so many different applications of the philosophy and the lifestyle. That's really what the Church of Satan is about.
Yeah, so it's not like some kind of a cult group where everybody has one type of thought. It's very individualistic, it sounds like.
It is. I like to say it's radically individualistic. You're more likely to disagree, strongly disagree with other Satanists. I've told other people, like, the day that I agree with everyone in the Church of Satan is the day that I resign. It's like something is wrong here. Is when everyone's holding hands and singing Kumbaya. It's like, that's what
You're
out.
like,
because something's not right there. And we are far, far, far from that. So I'm pretty comfy with the situation.
That's when you go and become a Christian, right?
That's when I become, I don't know, a Nietzschean degenerate. That's when I call myself otherwise.
So let's see. We had a question here, which I thought was a good one. So Leon wants to know, what goes on in a typical day at the Church of Satan?
Well, the Church of Satan is a loose cabal. It's not a place that everybody gets together and worships every Sunday, or if you want to be blasphemous, Saturday, I don't know. But it's not a gathering place. The organization itself, though, on the day-to-day, because I am actually involved in some of the day-to-day stuff, it's coordinating with media. It's coordinating with legal cases out there. There are a number of legal cases that we work with in terms of being, what do they call it, subject matter experts, or giving advice to law enforcement. We get a lot of requests from law enforcement on occult crimes. They'll have like some graffiti with a swastika or with a pentagram, and they'll call it, satanic crime. And then it's like, well, we'll coordinate with them and say, like, actually these symbols have nothing to do with Satanism. This is what Satanism is about. Who you're dealing with is most likely a Christian, some disgruntled Christian, somebody with mental illness. So we help with those kind of profiles to help law enforcement, because we are a law and order philosophy. We want to see these, the right people prosecuted for these crimes. We don't want to be the scapegoat. And you have a lot of these situations out there where everyone thinks that, Satanists are out there killing babies, murdering cats, committing these terrible crimes, where we have nothing to do with that. And if you actually look at the evidence, it's most likely some disgruntled or mentally ill Christian that's acting on all those lies told to them by, Christianity.
So it sounds like you're sort of like a what do you call it? Like more of a legal witness?
Well, we could. I mean, I got into the weeds on that, but yeah, that's part of what we do. We also do a lot of promotion of our members. We do coordination with members. Like, okay, we have one member who's doing a music video, so we'll say, okay, well, we know another member who's a video producer. We know another member who's a graphic artist, and we'll coordinate. We'll have them coordinate, put them in touch with each other. Or another member has a new album coming out or a new gallery exhibit going on, and we'll get that information and promote it on our Twitter or on Facebook. So a lot of what we do on a day-to-day is promotion of our members, coordinating with media. We do a lot of interviews. To be honest, like, I'd say only about a quarter of the interviews we do with the media actually get out there. A lot of it just doesn't go anywhere. So we spend a lot of time doing that. We spend a lot of time, being legal witnesses, giving legal advice. That's pretty much the day-to-day.
Mm-hmm. So now, because I've been checking out, like, I think what is it, Third Side Network?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of them that's on YouTube, and we'll also have. I just remembered I didn't put them in there, but I'll put the links down below.
Yeah.
And then there's also another one, Reverend Campbell. Have you
Yep.
ever worked with him? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
He's on YouTube too, and I just recently subscribed to his channel. It's been fun. He does a lot of interviews. He did an interview with Magus Gilmore.
Yeah.
And they just had the Warlock of the Year or something award.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, we have fun with that. We're trying to do more stuff on YouTube. I actually have something going up on YouTube soon, so you'll see that. Yeah, we've got that's Third Side Network, and then you have Reverend Campbell, Speak of the Devil. So he's got his own videos he puts out there, just kind of vlogs he puts out there, and also interviews and topical videos that he puts out. Yeah, a lot of quality stuff. That's and the Church of Satan is involved in all of that, is in terms of coordinating with people, promoting it. Yeah, it's the Church of Satan is it's the members' productivity. It's we showcase what our members are doing. We are our members, so that's where we are with that.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. Just interrupt me if I'm hogging the discussion here, guys. But it really struck me when you had mentioned that how you get all these interviews, but barely any of them actually get released. So it's like, do they actually talk to you and find out, oh wow, the Church of Satan's not a bunch of nutty people going around sacrificing animals. They're actually decent people.
Yeah, we get a lot of that. We also get I'm not going to name names, but there are some outlets who are interested in Satanism as a kind of edgy, controversial thing, but when they find out we don't exactly align with their political perspective, they just lose interest and they don't decide to publish. And they'll spend all this time interviewing us and calling us and emailing, and we won't see it published. So we go into these a little more skeptical than usual now, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like they want you to fit a certain narrative that they want to push, and then you're just yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like we can't take a specific narrative because our members have different narratives. Our members have different perspectives. They have different opinions on things, and we can't just be one thing for that outlet. That would be a bad representation of Satanism. We are individualistic, and we can speak. I can speak on my own opinions and my own perspective, but I can't speak for anybody else.
All right, so let me see.
So I've had one question for you.
Yeah.
So how many members do you get, or people wanting to join because they believe, like the hype, they believe that Satan will give you this awesome power, will give you the women, will give you the cash, and
I can't say numbers, but we do turn those away. That's one of the things that people say. It's like, oh, you guys are just in it for the money. You guys are just, in it to make a buck. It's like, dude, if you knew, like, we turn away most people who join, and then we have a questionnaire. When you join, there's a questionnaire, and you fill that out. And if it's clear that you don't understand the philosophy, it's sorry, we're not cashing your check. We're not interested, because more often than not, those people become liabilities, and we're not interested in that. So, you'll even see there's I think a meme out there. I think Boing Boing posted it, like a rejection letter from the Church of Satan. It's like it's a real thing. It's like we send out rejection letters. So it's we're not interested in that, and that's part of the reason why we have the membership fee. We have the application is we want a barrier to entry, really, and we want people to really know what they're doing when they're getting involved. And we get a lot of people who. Not a lot of people, I'll take that back. We get some people who say, I'm not really a Satanist, but I'd like to join. And we'll say, well, you don't need to join, but if you want to donate, here you go. Join only if you know what you're doing, if you really do identify as a Satanist.
So let's see. I, I think there was somebody who was wondering about the term warlock, because
Okay.
I know that is a term that the Church of Satan uses. So I'll let you talk about that.
Well, I mean, there's like the general term, which is like a male witch, but within the Church of Satan, that's also a title that we grant a member, because we do have a hierarchy. So you can be a registered member, and then you can work up to be an active member. So you do have to put in an application for that to make sure that you are sane and you actually know the philosophy, and then that tells the organization you want to be involved more. So we put you into the circuit. We integrate you more with some of the projects that we're working on. And then you can become, based on the success of that, based on your real world applications, even if you're not actively in the Church of Satan, involved with the Church of Satan, if you are successful in your arts, in your career, in your academics, keep us up to date with that. And then, when appropriate, we'll elevate you to witch if you're female, warlock if you're a male, and all the gender stuff, included with that. We recognize all of that. And then we work you up to priest or priestess or reverend, and then magister or magistra. And then ultimately, there's only one high priest or high priestess. So that's how it works.
Okay. So it sounds kind of like you have 1, 2, 3, about 5 levels. Would that be accurate?
yeah, that's about right. I'm not pedantic about this stuff, so yeah.
I
sure.
know. I was just thinking, like, because the traditional coven is, or Wiccan coven at least, is usually, I think, three degrees, and then you're the high priestess or high priest. So that's I was trying to relate it in terms of like that.
That's about right. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that you don't accept everybody who just puts in an application. It sounds like you actually screen people and look at them and wonder about them. And I think that's good, because I think a lot of people have a misconception about your organization. And I'm obviously speaking from an outsider's point of view, but I think they have this assumption that you take somebody's check, give them a title, and then move on. And it sounds like that's not what you do at all.
No. We do take applications from anybody who wants to join. But again, if you want to be active with the organization, there's a questionnaire you fill out, and we make sure that you are that you're aware of what you're getting involved in, that that we're not gonna hook you up with orgies and things like that, because we do get that. It's like people are like, I want to join, when's your next orgy? And it's like, it's not going to work out. And so we do screen for those kinds of things. And I think, to be honest, LeVay was a little more kind of freewheeling with this stuff. He gave out more like these honorary titles and things like that, and we may do that from time to time, but we're right now we're at a point where we really only want people who are interested in the philosophy, because we don't want these kind of liabilities going down. We don't want to just give out membership to somebody who just buys it, and it turns out they have no idea what the philosophy is about, and they just joined it because they thought it'd be a cool prank, or like it'd be a cool thing to show off to their friends. It's like, what, we get $200 or something, and we're dealing with 10 years of bullshit from people from that. So it's not worth it, really. Yeah.
But if you did have orgies, that would be the time to join, right before one of those orgies.
I'm not going to say anything about that, but those may happen from time to time.
Well, it's funny, because people actually have that, maybe not as much as they do now, but they used to have that same concept about traditional Wiccan covens, because a lot of them practice in the nude. And so there was a lot of assumptions that these just led to these big, huge orgies. And a lot of the comments that I would give people is like, if that's really what you want, if you want to have an orgy, you don't have to join a coven. Yeah. You can, I'm sure you can probably go on Craigslist or wherever and find people who are interested in having. Burning Man has, an orgy tent. If that's really what you want to do, you don't have to join a coven. You can actually go out and, you know, really do that on your own. You don't have to go through any other third source.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah. So, so I know that you and I talked about some of these characters who claim to be part of the Church of Satan, like Bill Schnobel and Mark Masio.
Yeah.
But
That look.
yeah.
Yeah, it turns out that I actually did some research after that, and Mark, I think he may have actually been a member of the COS, but he was no one of any importance. Like, he was just a person who joined. When you watch his videos, you actually see that he does get it. He does actually understand like the base philosophy, but then he takes it to this other level. He just like, and I suspect this is malicious. I suspect that he knows full well what the COS is about. He knows full well what Satanism is about, but you know, he needs to make a buck now. So he just took that and now applied it to this grand conspiracy of bullshit, and he's got an audience out of that. So, you know, he's got to do what he's got to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're saying that demonic possession is not real Satanism?
yeah, I'm pretty comfy saying that.
Okay. And I've also heard from a certain individual on a video that a high priest in the Satanic Church can kill someone with just a few words.
All right.
Can you verify that?
If only.
Yeah, that was actually in the video that I think we just that we watched before from the 80s. So
would be nice.
Yeah. So does the church still experience a lot of backlash and problems from the satanic panic era in the present day?
I would, if you asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said no, but in the past couple of years, it has cropped up again, with things like Pizzagate, with all of these like conspiracy theorists out there now who are trying to link us to all kinds of crazy stuff now with all of these sex allegations going on. Everyone wants to pin it on Satanism. Oh, Hollywood, Pedowood, it's like this big satanic Illuminati cult. And it's like, no, those people have nothing to do with us. They have nothing to do with Satanism. So we are seeing that creep up again.
Yeah. Yeah, and my own personal opinion about that is that I think Hollywood especially has been kind of like this den of, okay, if you want to become famous, you have to sort of do certain things. Yeah. And so I think that there's been a lot of the people like Weinstein who have been getting away with this stuff for a long time, but that doesn't have anything to do with the occult. You know what I mean? That's like, people want to associate everything with the occult, and it's just not that way. And I'm sure the Church of Satan is the same way. It's like there's very specific rituals that you do for whatever. And having sex with children, or, you know, doing some kind of a, sex on a couch to get promoted is not part of it. It's just not part of what happens.
No, we don't discard the fact that these things happen, that there is abuse, that there may be some weird kinky shit going on in Hollywood. We don't disregard that, but the point is that has nothing to do with Satanism. A Satanist would be one of the first people who will try to bring that to the authorities. Will try to call that out. That has nothing to do with us. And the problem is when these people do try to pin it on occultism or Satanism or things like that, you're actually letting the real perpetrators get away. You're actually distracting from the facts, and you are just muddying the waters on that, and that's a disservice to the victims, and that's a disservice to the actual crimes happening. So let's stick to the facts, let's stick to what's actually going on, and let's keep the bullshit out of it.
Yeah, because, and I've said this in my videos before, if you're doing something against the law, it doesn't matter if you're a Christian, it doesn't matter if you're a Satanist, doesn't matter if you're an occultist, doesn't matter if you're a pagan, or an atheist, it doesn't fucking matter. You're doing something illegal, you need to pay the price for it.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
And it doesn't matter what you dress it up as. So let's see, we got one other question. This is from Raise a Village, one of our viewers. Does the church still experience a lot of backlash and problems from the Satanic Panic era in the present day? This is. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. That was the same question. Yes. Thank you, Loki.
It's below it where it says raise a village.
Yeah. Because it wasn't. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Will you describe the basic satanic service as in, if I were a member and I went to a satanic religious service, what could I expect?
Well, like I said earlier, we don't have regular services or anything like that. The point of the Church of Satan is to be a loose network of individuals, and we promote each other's work. We may get together from time to time, but it's not like a thing we do every weekend. We did have on the 50th year and the 50th anniversary, so the 50th and the 51st years, we did have these large get-togethers of members and members only. And there was a ritual, and there was a dinner, and there was an open bar and things like that. I mean, that's a satanic ritual. You know, it's dinner, an open bar, maybe, you know, some kind of theatrical ritual, but we're not going to do that every now and then. We're not going to do that frequently. Individual members may get together from time to time. We have some groups that get together regionally, and these are invite only. They are screened by the members individually. These are friends who get together from time to time, and you know, some of those things may be just that, a dinner, drinks, and then they'll perform a ritual with an altar, and they may have some desires they may want to get out there, you know, in terms of a curse or a blessing. But these kinds of things are mainly theatric, and they're just to get those emotions out of people. It's to work through those things and put it out there, and as individuals, they can go on with their lives. Now, if something happens out of that, great. But if not, you know, it's you just go through your life having worked those things out of you.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like it's sort of like this kind of cathartic experience, rather than sitting there kind of holding on to the resentment or whatever you might be holding in you. It's just kind of like let it out, do some way to get it out.
Yeah.
Let me see.
So in your own personal experience, would you view like the Satanic Church as more of a philosophical group than a religious group, or like a weird blend?
I would say it's a blend. I would say there is a religious aspect to it, because we do have an idea of God, and God to us is the self. It is the ego, because we do believe the whole idea of God is man-made. So everything all gods are man-made, you know, from Christianity to Buddhism to Taoism, all those are man-made ideas, concepts. But there is an importance to religion. There's an importance to metaphor. We do think that religion is an important part of the human experience. So we're not like these militant atheists that just want to do away with religion. It's like, no, there's something to religion. We just want to use the symbol that best applies to our nature. So that would be the symbol of Satan. And we also recognize the power of ritual, of ceremony, you know, marking milestones in your life, whether they be marriages or deaths, or, you know, events where you want to celebrate, you know, big graduations and things like that. These are rituals, and we will have these satanic applications of those rituals. So, because we do think that there is an importance to an aesthetic, to a meta culture. We do see Satanism as kind of like a meta tribe, and we span all kinds of ethnicities, backgrounds. We are international, so we transcend those other barriers. But we do think that there's an importance to having some kind of network. So that's what the Church of Satan strives to do.
So there's a couple. Were you going to say something, Loki? Go ahead.
I do have a question, because it is coming up to the holidays and those great times of year where we sit back and eat a bunch of crap and get fatter. I've had friends debate with me that most Satanists don't celebrate Christmas or Yule or solstice or any of that kind of stuff, or even Easter. from a few that I know, they're like, yeah, we do with our family, but we have it differently. What's your view on those holidays, like Christmas or Easter, stuff like that, that has been pretty much Christianized?
Well, yeah, and then that's an important thing to say is Christianized, because those dates were not Christian to begin with. Those are all pagan holidays that were incorporated into Christianity as they began to spread throughout the various cultures. So, when people say, keeping the Christ in Christmas, well, like Christmas was never Christian anyway. So, so with that in mind, Satanists are free to enjoy Christmas, like if they call it Christmas, or they call it Yule, or they call it Yuletide, or they call it the winter solstice, however they want to recognize it. They may enjoy it with their families, with their friends. They may even do the traditional American Christmas thing, just the tree, the gift giving, the Santa Claus. All that stuff is man-made. There's no spiritual aspect to it. Objectively, that's not there. So we'll take it and we'll use it. We'll have fun with it. There's no guilt about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to tack on to that, I mean, if you look at especially American holidays like American Halloween, American Christmas, they're very much a conglomeration of different traditions. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Halloween is a very good example of that, because like dressing up in costumes and trick-or-treating was never really a part of European Halloween traditions. When it came over to America, those dressing up in costumes and trick-or-treating very much became a part of it, and it actually got incorporated, or not incorporated, but sent over to Europe, and Europe started doing that. Same thing with the Christmas tree. Christmas tree was not a European thing. It was more of a Northern European thing. Mm-hmm. But like the traditional putting a Christmas tree in the living room, that caught on in America, and then Europeans started adapting it. And most of our holidays that we celebrate here in America are very much a melding of pre-Christian traditions and Christian traditions, and I actually appreciate that, because it shows this sort of melding of Christianity and pre-Christian traditions, And it's only recently, it seems like there's people that just want to like purify all these holidays to some kind of I don't know, they want to purify it down to like the original Judeo practices, which is, in my opinion, boring as hell.
Yeah, it's an original practice that was never there. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's these are all cultural constructs subjective to the regional areas. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. We got a couple more questions here. Okay, so this is kind of a hard question, or not really a hard question, but kind of an odd one. This is from I Am Trash. Okay. They say, I need help. I know a person I will not name who is being too edgy about Satanism. Send help. And then they had a follow-up question or comment that said, I have a 15-year-old who wants to be a Satanist on my hands. Send help. So.
Okay, so first of all, like Church of Satan, we don't accept minors. We don't accept anyone underage. So you have to be 18 or over to join. So that's out of the question. I can't really give advice. I don't know that situation. I don't know why they want it. Do they even understand what Satanism is? Is it, really Satanism, or is it what they think Satanism is based on movies, based on what they were told by their friends, or what they found on the internet? I would say, read up on Satanism, find out what it actually is. Go to the Church of Satan, churchofsatan.com, read up on what Satanism actually is, see if that's what this kid is interested in, and if not, educate them on that and figure out what's going on personally, because there may be something else going on beyond that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that that's excellent advice. And actually, we were joking right before we went live about if you should follow the Church of Satan on Twitter, because they get questions like this all the time, and I would say probably 75% of the time their response to questions is, read our frequently asked questions section.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend that to people, even if you're just curious about the Church of Satan. Just go to their frequently asked questions, because they have almost every single question that people have about the Church of Satan is just right there. And I think it's just hilarious. I'll be following Twitter and somebody will say something. They're like, read our frequently asked questions.
Yeah, read the FAQ.
The answer right there.
Yep.
Yeah. Let me see. Okay, and then Modal Bros said, honest question. Some say using Satan as a symbol is just a means to rustle Christian jimmies. Any truth to that?
No, because if you actually look at LaVey's work, LaVey grew up a secular Jew. Like, he didn't grow up with that baggage of Christianity. So when he formulated Satanism, he wasn't actually targeting Christianity. He thought Christianity was dead wood. He thought it was a religion on the ropes that was on the way out. So he was not really interested in Christianity. If you actually read the Satanic Bible and some of his interviews, he was actually attacking the hippie culture of the 60s. He was attacking this kind of collectivist, brotherly love, universal brotherly love idea. And a lot of the things that he incorporated in the Satanic Bible was a reaction to the kind of occultism going on at that time. So he was actually attacking kind of white light. And I'm sorry, guys, I know you guys are Wiccan and all that, but
That's
just
okay.
actually speaking, like, he was attacking the kind of white light occultist scene of the 60s, the hippie scene, the yoga, that kind of spirituality of the 60s. That's what he was going against. He wasn't really attacking Christianity. Into the 80s and early 90s, he was a little more interested in attacking Christianity, because he did see Christianity kind of having a rebound in terms of the Satanic Panic and the other moral panics going on at that time. So he did kind of speak to Christianity specifically a little more in that time. And today we may address Christianity more specifically in terms of the religious right, in things of like evangelical Christianity. But we do still think, and me personally, I do still think Christianity is on the way out. I do think there's a bigger, a looming kind of, not threat, but I do see a problem with collectivism in general, whether it's cultural collectivism, political collectivism, that kind of thing is on the rise. And I think that's where you're going to see Satanism become the adversary to that. So not Christianity. I think Christianity is more like a symptom of things going on in society than the main target.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I won't get into it, but I agree with you about the collectivism. I think that's a big thing. But in my opinion, I think Christianity really has been kind of once we had the Enlightenment. I think once we had that period where the church had to admit that the earth was not the center of the universe, I think at that point they started to decline.
Yeah.
Because that's when people started to actually think for themselves. People began to read, and people began to get educated outside of the church. Because for a very long time, that's where you got your education, was you went to the church. And most people were illiterate. That's why so many churches you go into, they have frescoes of the whole church, the story of Jesus.
Yeah.
Because most people were illiterate. You had a priest up there in front reading the Bible to you, telling you what to believe. And then as soon as the Enlightenment period happened, people started thinking for themselves, wondering about things, and start cracking open those ancient philosophies and started really questioning things.
And they were reading it in Latin and then translating it and interpreting it for you. I mean, that was a Protestant revolution, really. But I would also say that we're not, as Satanists, I'm not interested in Christian moralism without God. I mean, I think that we are seeing that now, like a secular Christianity. We're seeing that with like the some of the new atheist movement, right? Who without, they may reject God, they may reject spirituality and religion, but they still cling on to the moralism. Like they still want to be the good guys, and they still want to, prove that we don't need God to be good people, right? So we're not interested in that either. We reject that. I would say personally, I reject that more than even Christianity, because at least with Christianity, you have some theology to back up on. Whereas these like goody atheists, it's like now you're just trying to be good to kind of to validate yourself, and I think that's even worse. So I think Satanism is about just accepting who you are, good or bad, working within your nature, working within a framework that recognize that this is the one and only life that we have, and that we have to do the best we can to enjoy it without harming others who don't deserve it.
So I have one small question for you.
Yeah.
What happens when you do see like of the Church of Satan using Satan as a platform to be like, I'm better than you, I'm morally right, you guys are all dumb for believing an old book, or you're just like trying to use Satanism as a way to heighten themselves over other people?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not a fan of that. I can't speak to all Satanists. Obviously, everyone has their own way of expressing themselves and applying things, and they may be going through their own kind of thing that they're working out. But I don't think that Satanism should be used as a moral high ground. I don't think that's the correct way of going about it, because I consider I like to say I'm on Twitter as at Invisible War. In my profile, it's like I am a Nietzschean degenerate. Like I am not a good person. Like I am a bad guy. So like I'm not trying to be like a saint. I'm not. I'll recognize that I have some ideas that are just not for everyone. And some people might think are distasteful. That might think that they're unpopular. But I think that's okay. Be the bad guy. Be the villain. But at the same time, we don't accept antisocial behavior. You can be a bad person without being antisocial. And when you're being antisocial, you're being self-destructive. You're destroying your own freedom, whether you're committing crimes, things like that. That doesn't last long. If you're harming other people who don't deserve it, who aren't without your consent, that's self-destructive. That destroys some social bonds, and that destroys yourself as well, and that's mentally destructive. So we don't accept it. We are a life-affirming philosophy, so those are the kind of things that it's like we're not nihilists. We don't just say, that's actually one of the misconceptions that I want to put out there, is that, that I want to correct, is that some people think that we believe in do what thou wilt, just do whatever you want, and that's not true either. We believe that there should be a framework for your life, and as long as we recognize that these are not objective, that this is the framework that works best for us as a life-affirming philosophy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, were you sort of referring to the thelemic do as thou wilt thing?
Yeah, a lot of people, because they think Satanism, they think Crowley, and then they think do as I wilt, and it's like, well, that's actually thelema. That's not us. That's not even what thelema actually.
Right.
That's not even the actual translation. Do whatever you want. That's not what he was saying. He was saying, find your true will,
right, and
work with your true will. But we're not even going to get into that because we don't represent thelema, and we don't want to misrepresent thelema.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to clarify. Was a lot of, and it's usually the people who want to distract from it, or the opposition to that, where they'll take that expression to mean like, oh, you can do whatever you want. It's like, nah, that's not exactly what Crowley meant. Mm-hmm. He actually meant do what is your true will, just like you had said. So yes, absolutely. Let me see. Okay, I Am Trash has another question. I always feel uncomfortable around Satanism, and it bothers me because I have no logical reason to be uncomfortable. What do I do?
I mean, Satanism is not going to be for everyone. I think there is going to be some things that people are going to find uncomfortable, because it does put a lot of responsibility on yourself. It says, you are your own God. You are responsible for your own things. You have to face the consequences of your own actions. And for a lot of people, that's intimidating. They want something to tell them what to do. They want, a 10 commandments to tell them what to do, what not to do, and things to follow. And you know what? If that's what you need, there are other schools of thought out there that you should probably pursue and research. Maybe Satanism isn't for you, and that's okay. And we're not trying to convert the whole world to Satanism. I think we're a long way from that.
You got to get a better PR department.
I know it's pretty good right now, but yeah,
no, you want to rule the world.
yeah, not yet.
Between you and the Freemasons, you're slowly working at it, right?
Yeah, chipping away.
Would you often get accused of having no morals for being a Satanist? I've heard that argument quite a bit. Oh, Satanists have no morals. They just do whatever. They're only bound by the laws that Christians put in place. And
yeah. I've seen like the Church of Satan account go into a debate with some kind of right-wing Christians who say like, okay, without God, you have no objective morality. And if you don't have objective morality, well, you might as well just be cannibals. And it's like, the idea is like, okay, so are you saying that if you didn't have God, you would just go around abusing children and just going around eating people? Like that's what's holding you back? And that's to me is a symbol that, that's signifying that you're a sociopath. Like you're really saying that's just what you really want to be doing, but you don't want to go to hell, so you don't do that. Like, I don't understand that. I do think that morals, norms are subjective, and I do think that there is an objective side to it, but I think the objective side to it is something that's passed on through natural selection, cultural Malthusian pressures on regional societies, regional populations. You're going to have one region of the world at the same time as another region in the world have totally different moralities. So there is no objective morality there, right? So unless, one says, well, they're of the devil and we're of God, well, the other side says the same thing of you. So that doesn't make sense either. So Satanists recognize that kind of subjectivity, but also recognize that, well, there is a base foundation that we apply ourselves to, right? And we'll recognize that it's subjective, right? Okay, but we do not harm children. We do not harm animals unless we need them for food. We do not make sexual advances unless there's a mating signal. Those are the basic foundations. And on top of that, we express ourselves, through our carnal natures how we want, but that there is a foundation.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me see. We got a couple more questions here. One person was asked, this is from Mark Ockwell. Are there any branches of the Church of Satan in the United Kingdom?
We don't have regional branches, but we do have representatives in the United Kingdom and in most parts of the world. We do field interviews from the UK press, from European press. We did an interview with some Indian press recently. I did an interview with some people from the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. So we're all over the place, but we don't have regional like chapters or anything like that. If you're a member of the Church of Satan, you get in touch with the central office, and they'll, if you want to network with other people, you'll discover other members in the area, but there is no like set chapter.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And let me see. So one person said, the UK Church of Rational Satanism. Have you heard it? Does that have any association with the Church of Satan?
I've heard of them. They have no association with us. They have a different thing going on. I don't really know them very well, or what their beliefs are, or their philosophy is. I believe it is different than from ours. But the Church of Satan doesn't coordinate with any other organization. Like, we are our own entity.
Okay. All right. And let me see. There was one other question here. What was it? Well, somebody had a question about the temple of, not that, excuse me, that was actually my question. Was the, where is it? Ah, yes. Is there any link between the Church of Satan and the Satanic Temple?
There's no philosophical link, really. Their philosophy, well, first of all, they don't represent Satanism. Like, they are a political activist organization, and they've said that explicitly themselves. They said that they were started by these multimedia guys who wanted to create a mockumentary, right? They wanted to mock Rick Scott and mock these Christian religious right politicians. So they came up with this thing called the Satanic Temple, and you can see some of the early footage of that. They hired actors, they hired, you know, they had a guy called Lucien Greaves, who isn't the person who plays Lucien Greaves right now. It was a different person. And, you know, they said that they believed in an actual devil, that they were a 1,000-year cult that worshipped Satan and all this stuff. So over time, they kind of changed things up to be more, I think, politically relevant and to attract the more progressive atheist crowd. And so, but their philosophy has nothing to do with Satanism. If you actually look at their tenets, what they claim to be their philosophy is almost the exact opposite of what LaVey wrote. And even though there may have been, I think there are some members of the Satanic Temple who may have been members of the COS at one point or another, you know, there is no actual philosophical connection with them at all. And I wouldn't even say that they're Satanists at all. Like, actually, they actually freely admit that most of their members are not Satanists. They're political allies is the core of their membership.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions for him, or questions in general?
Any serious questions? I have some half-assed joke questions, but
Okay.
Go for it.
all right. Well, for the final debate, how do you say? Sorry, I phrase this without sounding like a total dweeb. But what's your whole view of people still claiming to this day that video games and music and dating causes kids get into Satanism? Do you see any of that as fact, or?
I'm sure, actually. I would say yes. Heavy metal gets people into Satanism. I think video games and music get people into Satanism in the sense that it gets people to get in touch with their creative side, with their imagination. And that is satanic, so yes.
Let me see.
And I have one question from the chat room here. What is the dumbest thing someone's ever asked you about Satanism?
Oh my God. Oh.
You can only pick one.
Oh, that's mean.
Oh man. And you know what? Okay, I'll change this around. I won't say it's the dumbest. Okay, it's not the dumbest thing, but it's the most disappointing thing that I've heard. Have you guys heard of that Mansfield 66, 67 documentary? There's a Jane Mansfield documentary out right now about Anton LaVey and his relationship with Jane Mansfield. And in it, John Waters is interviewed. And one of his comments is something like, oh, Jane Mansfield wouldn't be into Satanism. She's not into goat sacrifices and all that stuff. And to me, it's like, John Waters, of all people, I thought you would actually know be a little more educated on this. And that's a very disappointing statement. Yeah.
But Jane Mansfield, wasn't she a friend of Anton LaVey's?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she was. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was. I mean, there may or may not have been a relationship between them, but they did have a friendship. Anton LaVey gave her a priestess position in the COS, and he wrote a lot about her, saying that she represented the philosophy well. And actually, if you watch some of her interviews, she actually talks about Satanism, maybe not directly, but indirectly. She uses her sexuality, her feminine power to her advantage. there's a little bit of mystique and stuff around that situation that people can take or leave. But yeah, she was a close friend of LaVey's.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. Well, we're getting close to the wrapping it up here. So let me sift through, make sure that see if we got any good questions here, or not good questions, but maybe questions that haven't been asked yet. Okay, we got that one. Okay. There was okay. So here's a question. Maybe if you could answer this one quickly, or if you can, I don't know. But what happens when a church member breaks a rule? For example, would an example would be a Satanist that beats a dog. What would happen to that person?
Well, there would be some level of verification on that, and we would revoke their membership. And based on what it is that they do, we may or may not seek punishment for that. Whether if there was a victim, we'd contact the police. It depends on the situation. There was one scenario where this was not a member, but it was somebody who wrote to the Church of Satan saying that, hey, I in the name of Satan, I am going to kill my parents and my grandparents. And we forwarded that to the FBI. And we sent all that information to them, and they reported to that house and well, they found out that the kid was just making a prank and that there was no real serious threat there. But that's the kind of thing we don't mess around with. We are a law and order philosophy. We do take threats seriously, and we do look at violations of our philosophies seriously. We are not like the Catholic Church. We don't try to hide it and ignore it and cover up for it. There is no, thin black line that we rally around our members. Like, no, if you commit a crime, if you hurt somebody, there will be repercussions for it.
Okay. And then Ray's had another question, and I kind of have an addition to that question. But he said, is there a connection between the Church of Satan and the Temple of Set? And my question is, what and if there is any connection between the Church of Satan and the Temple of Set at some point, what was the cause of the separation, if there was a connection? That's my addition to their question.
So the connection, I guess, well, to take it back, was with Michael Aquino, and he was a member of the Church of Satan. He was kind of like his media coordinator at a time, and he thought LaVey actually believed in the devil. He thought that in secret LaVey was actually a real devil worshiper, even though there are numerous and multiple on camera and on paper statements by LaVey saying the opposite, and there are plenty of people who's like, yeah, no, he never believed in that. He was theatrical, he was poetic, he was bombastic about things, but he never actually believed in this stuff. And he got a little upset about that, and he believed that there should be a more authentic kind of mandate to Satan, and so he took it upon himself to be that and to create the Temple of Set. And so there was drama there in the mid 70s around that. This is 30 years later. We're beyond it. They're beyond it. They're their own thing now. They don't even claim to be Satanists anymore. They recognize themselves as Setians. They have their own cosmology, their own theology, and they recognize Satanism as a totally different thing. And they're doing their thing. We're doing our thing. I'm not interested in getting into any more drama between that. But I guess that history is the past, but we are completely different things now.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you. All right. I think that's it, because there's some other questions, but if you have any other questions, go to the Church of Satan website and check out their frequently asked questions section.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the FAQ really does cover almost everything that people ask. But if you do have any other questions, we are active on Twitter. Ask them on Twitter, and somebody from the organization will get back to you. Maybe, again, if it's something on your FAQ, it's going to get ignored, or you will be publicly ridiculed. So beware of that. So don't be an idiot. But if you have legit questions, they might address it. Yeah.
No, I love following you because, like I said earlier, like some of these questions that people ask you, and whoever answers your Twitter has just got the perfect sense of humor. They're just like, they just completely just mock them, but in such an elegant and intelligent way. You know what I mean? It's not like they just say, go fuck yourself. They actually say, like, they really put some panache to it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that maybe what we could do, Raul, if you want, do you want to take like a little break before we get into the videos? Because when we get into the videos, you don't have to answer any questions. You're not going to be under the spotlight, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to maybe stretch your legs or use the restroom or something.
Yeah, I'll take a little breather here.
Okay. All right. So we'll take 5 minutes.
5 minutes is good.
Yeah, 5 minutes. Okay. And then when we come back, we'll get into the videos. So all right. So you can just turn your camera off if you want.
I'll just mute it.
Yeah. So I'll be back in 5 minutes myself too.
Okay. I mean, I'll be here. I'm pretty sure Dorian's here unless he ditches me.
Well, I'll be here. My Bible and start cleansing this. So.
Yeah. More than a Bible to ever cleanse any of us. You know this by now. Come on.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Oh. I like the videos where we learn things. Yeah, I like learning things, and I like getting a lot of information. A lot of my questions you guys were asking, so I'm like, I'm just going to sit here and not.
Well, I had to ask the generic whole Dungeons and Dragons and video games. Like, you're going to get a chance to ask a Satanist. It's like, well, is there an Illuminati thing here? You guys turning the frogs gay? What's going on? So...
No. We're the gay people. We're the ones turning the frogs gay. You got to remember that, Dorian. We're the ones doing it. And excuse me, I'm working on my second Coke to keep my migraine gone, and sucking on sour things to keep me awake.
Now I got a question. Now I got a question for you, gay people. Is it true that if a straight person hangs out with you for long enough, they become gay?
Nah, they do that on their own.
Or it just.
So maybe that's why the frogs are turning gay, because maybe they're hanging out with too many gay people.
Maybe. No, the frogs are turning gay because it's fun.
There's this one clip that somebody put to, and I'm actually working on something myself, putting a clip of like some of the craziest shit that oh crap, I can't remember his name. Alex Jones says, and just like putting them back to back.
That's a lot of clips.
Yeah, it is a lot of clips. But no, you just take the craziest shit, and somebody already kind of like condensed this into like maybe a 4-minute or 5-minute video, and then I just like trimmed out a couple of other ones, and I'm going to include some from some other people and turn it into like just a little fun clip that I'm going to release at some point.
Does it have like that one where he's like ripping his shirt off?
It does have that one, but I'm not going to use that one. But he has this one where he's like, he says something like, it's essentially an interdimensional demons that are coming to attack people, and it's just like all these various things that he says.
I take him as a performance artist. I mean, I can't really take him seriously beyond that.
Yeah. Well, he also said during because he had a divorce from his wife, and she was suing him for alimony or something like that. She was saying that he was nuts or whatever, and so he actually said, "No, I do all of that. I say all that for the views. It's a character that I play." And that's what he said. And I mean, I believe that. I mean, there's no way that this man can believe all the nonsense that he spews. You know.
I'd hope not.
Yeah.
Crazier than that, though. So, like a Kenyan official, I'll post a link in the chat room if I can. Alliance learned how to have gay sex and become gay from watching gay men. That's from the official that's an official Kenyan official. So.
Sounds about right. Yep. Those gay lions.
I had.
I'll try to find the link so I can share it with everyone.
And now, but how does that explain gay dolphins?
The
You
water.
don't want to know
I'm
what
not sure. So.
you don't want to know what we do in the water. Mermaids? I don't know. They made them gay. Fuck. You got me on a loss there.
Yes. So what's the video that we're gonna be watching, Loki? Maybe you can. I know because we've already watched like 40 minutes of it. Maybe we could sum it up for Raul.
Well, we've actually watched an hour of it because it's that guy with the problem with his face, correct?
Yes, right. Yeah, he had he was a Vietnam veteran, and he lost a part of his face, or something happened.
Nerve damage.
Nerve damage. Okay, so he was deformed. So it's like somebody who had a
stroke.
A stroke. Yeah. So he lost partial use of his face.
Okay.
Well, we're about an hour into it, because it has the actual timer up on it, so I don't have to go through our chat log and figure out where the flip we are. And that's what it's showing on here, but I can double check.
Well, I sent you the time. I think it was like 43, 40.
And why is it saying that we've watched it for an hour 39? Well, an hour and 39 seconds. Huh. I may have to back it up. If so, it's no big deal.
Let me see. Let me see, because I sent it to you.
Yeah, I have it right here. It's 45, 43.
Oh, 45, 43. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just have to back it up. It's no big deal.
Okay.
So it's exposing the Satanist web, 1990. It's still around the tail end of the 80s satanic panic going on, even though in the 90s that lasted until way over 95, 96.
Yeah.
Even living in a small town like I did, it was one of those, oh, if you don't believe in God, you're going to hell. That's the only reason besides my grandmother I became Mormon. So yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, actually get that to that spot, and I believe. Oh, actually, it is at the right spot. Never mind. Woohoo! Dang. I just got to pause it and actually turn the volume back onto it.
So usually what we do, Raul, while she plays the video, is when she plays the video, we usually turn off our cameras just to kind of ease up the bandwidth so it's not too choppy.
Okay.
So we'll do that. And then, like I said, if they say something or something comes to your mind, like you want to say or something, just ask her to pause it, and she'll pause it, and then we'll comment on it, and then we'll continue on with the video.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Alrighty. And share. Present to everyone.
I actually remember this from the 80s. Deities and Demigods, Dungeons and Dragons.
I think that's a cool cover art. That is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty.
Can you turn it up?
I would tell them, especially the parents with the young people, this is not a phase. Know what your young people are doing. Talk to your young people. Communicate. Don't fluff it off. Check everything. There's nothing wrong with asking them where they're going, what they're doing. There's nothing wrong with checking out their music and books they're reading. The parents need to care and communicate.
Satanists entrap young people in several ways. At sex parties, they take snapshots of their
pause it for a
victims for
second?
use.
So that the image that they just showed, that's like they posterized it. That was Janet Farrar, who's a very famous. She's still alive. She's an Alexandrian priestess. Her and her husband at the time, Stuart Farrar, started a lot of covens in Ireland and England back in the 80s and 90s. And then when Stuart Farrar died, she married a guy named Gavin Bone, and they're still together today. But she doesn't have anything to do with Satanism. She's an Alexandrian priestess, and she was talking to one of her initiates, and that's a film that you can even find on YouTube. I can't remember what it's called, but anyhow, just wanted to point that out.
Well, I feel kind of lied to now. Here they're telling me there's these satanic sex parties, and a little while ago I was told no such luck. So I'm not sure who to believe.
Yeah, I mean they did. You still find covens today that practice what they call skyclad, but they don't lead to orgies. And if they did the great rite in actual, you were not present for it. It was something that was done between the high priest and the high priestess privately, but you left the room at that point.
Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Of blackmail, or they'll involve the unsuspecting victim in their darkest rituals, perhaps animal or human sacrifice. They will get the teenager to offer his blood or even a finger to Satan. Outright threats keep a teenage victim in line. Some victims see suicide as their only escape.
So pause
The
it for a
tragic
second.
legacy of Satanism.
The message I like to give.
So that's why you see so many Satanists running around missing fingers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I notice you have all your fingers. Are you sure you're really a Satanist?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And let's see. Yeah, I'm good.
To parents is that be close to the children, talk to them, communicate with them. Always find a time where you will make a point to go to their room or sitting in the living room and talk about their school, their friends. Minutes each day is more than enough. Although everybody will surprise 10-15 minutes, that's all you're asking. Yes, because they don't talk even 5 minutes in weeks. So 10 to 15 minutes. The thing is that at least once in a month, family gathering, not extended family, just 3-4 children have a picnic or go out somewhere. Half an hour, 1 hour. It gives them a feeling of belonging, a relationship.
In addition to the personal involvement parents can have in their kids' lives, people can also work against Satanism at the community level. Many schools and organizations now offer seminars on Satanism. Some communities have gone even farther than that.
Yeah, I want to say something about that. So something to keep in mind is that during this time, these seminars, they were not free. So these organizations, these people went around to these local communities charging them thousands and thousands of dollars to do these seminars and to do these workshops on how to like address satanic crimes. And they were just making shit up. So they were ripping off these communities who were afraid. So yeah, you see a lot of these. These were for-profit groups going around just ripping people off based on things that they literally made up or based on movies. And it's just total nonsense.
Yeah. I wonder how much they people were charged for attending those.
Yeah, I mean, you could find the legal court documents and things like that. And I could probably even find some of that myself, but it was not cheap. It was a lot. And the unfortunate thing is that there were crimes in these communities that were going unsolved, and their resources were being drained on this nonsense, and rather than on on the actual perpetrators.
Mhm.
Major part of Satanism, but it's one of the most instantly denied things by the Satanists. And yet it's such a problem that even on our public school campuses, now school boards are having to take direct action against it. I'm reading from the Carl Sandburg High School 1989-1990 Student Parent Handbook. On page 29, it deals with policy. Now, I want you to hear this. The Board of Education hereby finds that the presence of Satanism and related activities has surfaced in society, and that such practices, when present or urged upon other students, cause material interference within a public high school district, in that such practices foster anti-social values and attitudes and endangers the health, safety, and welfare of students. Carl Sandburg High School is the #3 school academically in the United States. It's in Chicago. Now listen, no student shall engage in any Satanism-related activity, including but not limited to the following. Number 1, soliciting others for membership in any satanic group, participation in any satanic-related ritual or practice, inciting other students to act with physical violence upon any other person or living thing. Thirdly, they are not permitted to wear, use, distribute, display, or sell any clothing, jewelry, emblem, badge, sign, or other item which is commonly associated with the affiliation with or practice of Satanism. What
So
I'm trying to say to you is,
pause it for a second.
many areas of
So now, did that also apply to anybody who was, let's say, Catholic or Christian? Does that mean that they couldn't wear a cross? Does that mean that they couldn't like have a Bible study class, or they couldn't try to recruit people to go to their church? Or was it only quote unquote Satanists that couldn't do this?
Yeah, and it's actually kind of funny. I have personal experience in this. Even when I was in high school, which was 99 or so, they I was kind of an open Satanist, and there were other kids who tried to be friends with me, and then they were also calling themselves Satanists. And so it was actually, I forgot what year it was, but it was after Columbine. They rounded me up along with some others, and they tried to say that I was the leader of a satanic gang in the school. And you see, that's their symbol, the sigil of Baphomet. That's their gang sign. And I came back with just that. It's like, well, you're wearing a cross. Is that a gang sign? Are you in a Catholic gang here? It's a religious symbol. Are all religious symbols gang symbols? And they actually called my parents in, and my parents came in and they gave them our lawyer's card and said, okay, if you're going to pursue this any further, you can talk to our lawyer. And as soon as they saw that, they're like, okay, never mind. You can take the day off. Let's all think about this, and take the day off and just blow it off, and just don't cause any trouble. And I never caused any trouble, really. I actually spent most of my time cutting out of school, so I wanted to get out of there. So yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's funny how the rules apply to other people, but then when you turn it around and it's like, well, what about you wearing your religious symbol? It's like,
yeah,
never mind.
And all the crimes being committed in their name, with the pedophilic priests and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually pointed that out in the video once. I was like, do you know how? Because they said something about occultists in prison, or occultists committing crimes, and how the majority of them are in prisons. And I was like turning around saying, do you know how many Christians and Catholics are in jail? The majority of inmates in prison are Christian.
Yeah.
Not occultists.
I just love how the fact is just like, you can preach Christianity and hand out your stuff, no problem, but whoa, buddy, don't come talking to our students about Satanism. No way. That's over the line.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You can have your prayer circles around the flagpole, take over the gym, but don't you dare hand out a satanic pamphlet. Not in these halls.
Yeah.
recruitment, high school campuses, military bases, daycare centers. I'm most obviously connected with first the high school campus and then secondly the military base. My point though is that so much activity is now taking place that school boards are having to enact policies in how to deal with it. This isn't relegated to the big city of Chicago only. See, from a town in our community, Arlington, Texas.
Well, this Halloween, you might see a scarecrow in the halls of Arlington schools, but you won't see kids wearing scary costumes. The school district is banning skulls, witches, brooms, and the like because of parent concerns that some Halloween costumes can be linked to devil worship and satanic cults. Apps has
Unbelievable.
I'm just going to point this out. There's been so many people saying, well, if you wear anything on Halloween, you're worshiping the devil, you're satanic, you're this, you're that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're seeing that now come back too. And another thing that this guy said, like, oh, these schools are putting out these statements, putting out these policies because there's such rampant satanic activity. And it's like, no, not at all. Actually, there's none of that activity. It's just you're falling for your own kind of your own panic. It's a self-perpetuating machine, right? So they're being told that there's this stuff going on and they're believing it. And so they're putting out these policies for stuff that's not going on.
Right. Exactly. I mean, they're creating their own hysteria. I mean, it's the same thing, like you mentioned, that happened in the 80s. It's like they're creating their own, they're perpetuating their own narrative. And it's the same thing that's happening. And I agree with you. I think that there's another rise of this today in several different facets of our society that I'm not going to get into. But I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I mean, even today, I'm seeing some people, like around my apartment complex, we had trick-or-treaters who came that were in normal everyday clothes. And I was dressed up in a costume when I was handing out candy because why the heck not? And one of the moms asked me, well, do you worship Satan? Is that why you're dressed up today? I'm like, actually, my altars are dedicated to Loki, Bridget. I went into the list of the different gods. And she looked mortified. My neighbor across from me was just laughing his ass off, but she looked utterly mortified. I'm like, well, you have to realize Halloween is a celebration of your ancestors and the passing of their life. And it's also a day where you can dress up and be something that you're not every single day. So telling your kids, if you dress up, you're evil, is telling them, nope, you can't pretend to play dress up or be something that you don't normally be. Mm-hmm. And I find it a little sad that is kind of something that's going on still today.
It is sad. I agree with you. Yeah, because that's, especially when you're a little kid, that's like the best part of Halloween is dressing up. And usually, like me, when I was growing up, my thing was I loved to dress up as my favorite superhero. One time I even dressed up as Godzilla, I mean, it was a lot of fun. But there was I'm sure you've all seen Curb Your Enthusiasm, right?
Yes.
Okay. So there's this one episode where Larry David comes to the door and it's Halloween, and these older teenage kids are there asking for trick-or-treating, asking for treats, but they're not in a costume. And he gets into it with these kids. He's like, but you're not even in a costume. They're like, look, Baldy, it's Halloween. Give us some candy. And he's like, you're not in a costume. I'm not going to give you any candy.
I mean, I take the stance of if they're not in a costume, there's either they don't feel good, because one year I didn't feel good as a kid and I just had a mask on, or their parents couldn't afford one this year. I mean, yeah, I was Donatello from the Ninja Turtles for 5 years in a row because the costume fit and it was awesome. But I mean, it's sad that people don't want to let imagination fly with children anymore, and that now people are putting rules to everything, even with that person saying that if you dress up as a witch for Halloween, you won't get candy from me because that's being insensitive to what I believe in. I think about that person like, yeah, lady, you're what gives us a bad name and makes people not want to dress up for Halloween.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but enough with Loki's tangent. Sorry. Halloween's just my favorite whatever you want to call it, holiday things, because I just love the day. It's fun.
Yeah, well, Halloween, like I said, in America is pretty much a secular holiday at this point, but whatever.
It's just for fun more and more when it comes to being young, and I still see it as a light a candle and thank your ancestors for living. That's about it.
So that's more of the Samhain aspect of it, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Story. Playful screams on Arlington playgrounds mean back to school and recess, but there won't be any shrieks or screams by these kids clothed in goblin garb this Halloween. Ghosts and skeletons and other scary characters are expelled.
And we see children in elementary school coming with Freddy Krueger, and their fingers have the knives or whatever he has, and the grossness of the costumes. We thought we can do better than that.
Atherton Principal Shirley Cole has her kids decorating a school display area with pressed leaves and a stuffed scarecrow. Part of not Halloween will be emphasized. Kids in Arlington will still dress up on October 31st, but they'll be playing the parts of their favorite book characters. October is book.
It will do two things. It will give those children an opportunity to dress in costume, but it also will encourage them to read.
Satan exacts an agonizing toll in the lives of those who are trapped and in the lives of those who help them escape. Yet those we have interviewed expressed a profound hope for those who want to escape.
You have rehabilitation in your counselors, but it's going to take something stronger in some of these cases. And the good old-fashioned pill doesn't hurt anything.
There's hope for me. There's hope for everyone. I don't care what the situation.
So the number one importance is the cohesive relationship among the family. And the kid who has some belief in God, I think he is much more protected.
Because there's a God and because there's a cross, there's hope. And that's not a second-handed hope.
I had a choice to make, and I chose life. I knew I was about to die, but I was going to hell.
What the Satanist is looking for in the long term, he's looking for God. He's looking for that thing that he can worship. And until he finds it, until he gets reconciliation with what he's looking for, then there is no freedom.
Hey, pause it for a second. Oh, this is pretty much the end. But, you know, it's just so funny. Unfortunately, Raul, you didn't have a chance to see the first part of this video that we saw last week. But they did this whole thing about these kids who had you know, supposed repressed memories, and they were drawing these pictures and talking about all these horrible things, like seeing cats gutted in front of them, and you know, human sacrifice. I mean, just really despicable, horrible things that didn't happen, you know, but supposed repressed memories. So that's what this video focused on, was all these awful, terrible things that happened. Illegal activity, you know, humans being killed, you know, animals being useless, you know, maimed and just tortured for no real reason, and all this stuff. And so their answer to it is to turn to God. It's like, no, the answer to that is to call the police. The answer to somebody who confesses to a murder is not pray to God. It is to talk to the police and tell the police that there's a possible murder that may have happened in this situation. You know, that's what really pisses me off about a lot of the stuff, is they say that Satanists and occultists or whatever did all these horrible things, but they never do anything. They don't take it to the FBI. They don't report it to the police. None of this.
Right, and it's mainly because they're making it up usually, and there's no evidence for it. So they'll just say that they prayed on it, or they told their pastor or their priest about it, but they won't go to the authorities because they know there's nothing to it usually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like if I told you guys, oh yeah, I killed somebody, then I was serious about it, and you're like, oh well, we'll pray for you. It's like, no, turn my ass in. Call the police on me, you know.
Stupid notifications, stop popping up on my computer. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
But do we want to finish the last 10 minutes of this, or because?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
I mean, we'll see. If it's just going to be credits, then no, we don't need to.
Yeah.
Where was Satanism when we were kids? Why didn't we get into it? Why didn't we know about it? It really is a more recent phenomenon on the social life of the students and the kids of America. In looking at what you have just seen, consider it. Remember what's been said. Remember the people. They're everyday people. Many of those people never intended to ever be sitting on a television stage or set and talk about Satanism. We've done our best in researching these people to qualify both their character and their claims. We believe in them, that they've been honest with you and with us. I've asked my brother to join me and give a few of his thoughts on what he's seen. A man I hold in great esteem. He's general manager of this corporation, and when we went into this thing together, we didn't go into it foolishly or with some kind of entertainment in mind. We went in with a cause. Al Reaver, I'm glad you're with me.
Actually, I went into this. My part of it was fear and trembling, because there's a fine line between.
There you go.
Yeah, because they went into it knowing exactly what they wanted to get out of it. It's like if I went to go make a video about how Apple's into gold and stuff like that, I would have the outcome in mind. I would have the resources to have that outcome. They just went in knowing what they wanted to get out, and they did that. Mm-hmm. It's not, oh, what a surprise. It's, we wanted this, we found it, here you go.
Mm-hmm. And he also mentioned that when he was a kid, Satanism wasn't around. But okay, so Anton LaVey, well, you can answer this probably, Raul, but my assumption is that Anton LaVey officially started the Church of Satan in 1966. Would that be accurate, or? Yeah.
So prior to 66, Satanism as a thing wasn't defined. There are a number of academics, scholars who have gone back and researched this and try to find other occurrences of Satanism prior to that, and they found some short-lived instances of self-proclaimed Satanism. But what you actually, and they were short-lived. They're only recognized now because people are going back and looking for it and scouring through the records to find it. But they didn't have any real impact. But what they did find was that Satanism prior to LaVey was either a literary construct by Christians or by Protestants. Like they were not self-proclaimed Satanists or writing this kind of material often, or it was an accusation. Christians called Muslims Satanists, Muslims called Jews Satanists. Everyone called Jews Satanists, really, or anyone who was pre-Christian was considered satanic. So it was an accusation. Occultists were called Satanists, and occultists would scramble to disavow that label. There were some occult organizations or groups that used Satan in their cosmology, but it wasn't a central figure. It wasn't something that they worshipped, and they didn't even consider themselves Satanists or satanic. They considered themselves Gnostic or something else, right? So the very first instance of a actual formalized, self-described, long-lasting satanic organization was the Church of Satan.
Yeah, and so I think when he was a kid, there wasn't really any actual like satanic groups, any satanic cult. I mean, there were definitely occultists. I mean, occultists, you can trace them back to at least 1700s. The one good example of that is the Rosicrucians, and then the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Which Aleister Crowley was a member of, but there wasn't actual. I mean, the Hellfire Club, and I actually don't know that much about them, but I think they were more of a club than an actual occult group.
Yeah, they were more like a fraternity, and you know, and LeVay did his research. He looked into all these groups in the past, and he did pull influence from the Hellfire Club and a little bit of Crowley, and actually, but mostly from philosophy, from the writers that he thought were anti-Christian in a more implicit nature, not just explicitly "quote unquote" satanic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Glorifying something that you really are only trying to give information on, and just giving information. And I feel like that our television department has done a good job in staying on the right side of that line. I'm sure that there are some who have watched the video and they have a question in the back of their mind, and they're saying to themselves, does this prove the existence of Satan? See, that's not the question that we were approaching. That's not what we were trying to do. We weren't trying to prove anything. Sure. What we were trying to do, and I feel have accomplished, is we have shown that Satanism is very real. The consequences of Satanism are very real. There are really hurting people because of the presence and the activities of Satanism. Now, where a person goes with that is something that they're going to have to deal with internally. They're going to have to ask themselves some very serious questions. But the signs, the evidences, the things that are going on around, and especially on high school campuses, things that I've seen where normally I just drive onto a school campus, you know, and let my teenager out and drive off. The other day I drove onto the campus and I looked over, and under a tree was a large group of young people, all of them, every single one of them dressed in black. And I thought, there's no reason for
bullshit.
That unless, you know, and then it clicked. There's probably
that's bullshit. He said he says he saw it. Can you back it up like 10? Hit J. Just back it up like I want to hear that again.
Yeah, but I will have to say this much. I knew a lot of people who weren't Satanists that wore black because they didn't like fucking colors. Fucking A, dude.
But he says he saw a group of people dressed in black.
Under a tree. They had to be witches.
Yeah, just play it again. It's hilarious.
Young people, all of them, every single one of them dressed in black. And I thought, there's no reason for that unless, you know, and then it clicked. There's probably something going on. You know, Dave, I watched it over a period of days, and one day as I drove by, I saw two boys there fighting. Everybody just standing, look, just grinning. And when I say fighting, I don't mean just kind of.
Yeah, that's. Go ahead.
I'm with you. I'm calling fucking bullshit. Yeah. If teenagers are fighting and people are circled around them, teachers would have been out there in less than 3 to 4 minutes, because even back then, if somebody yelled fight, you had half the campus staff out there pulling people away.
Yeah. Because when I first heard him say that, I thought he meant like there was like he like looked off into the woods and he saw like a group of people in black robes. I mean, I've heard that before on like Now You See TV, where they say some guy says, you know, he stumbled across a group of people dressed in black, all black hoods, and they were in a circle, and it's always the same thing. It's always, you know, this whole thing. It's just, you know, it's just bullshit. It's like nobody stumbles across some kind of a black-clad ritual group in the middle of the forest. So it just doesn't happen. If there's any kind of an outdoor, let's say a pagan ritual, chances are they probably talked to the city, they got a permit for it, and they had they had their Beltane festival or whatever it is that they're having. If it's a small private group, then yeah, maybe, you know, but it's just so stereotypical, like, you know, like they were all dressed in black, you know, and there was a big red pentagram in the middle, and, you know, like a screaming baby or something. It's like, come on.
You guys are ruining all these fantasies of mine, man. I plan to go camping just so I can freaking go find Satanists in the woods. You're ruining it for me.
Sounds like he was looking at a bunch of bikers, right? Actually.
Yeah, right. Really, he could have been. But I will admit, one day, I was in Yosemite, and I was hiking around by myself, which you shouldn't be doing, but it was what I was doing at the time. And I actually did stumble across what was probably a private, I forget if it was, what time of the year? I think it was around, it must have been around Imbolc, around February 1st. And it was a pagan ritual, but they were all dressed like in, you know, regular clothes, and they were doing their thing. And I just kind of like, I accidentally stumbled upon them, and I just sort of, you know, took another direction and left them alone, you know, because that was what they were doing. But they were dressed in regular clothes, and they were just doing their little ritual out in the middle of nowhere.
Kind of hugging and rolling around in the dirt. One of them was holding the other one's jacket over his head and was kicking him in the stomach. It was vicious, it was cruel, and it went exactly in line. I slowed down, almost came to a stop to see if there was anything to do, and he let the boy go, and the boy took off running. But just to see and know what is happening on our high school campuses ought to put the fear into people, and enough to start to take some action.
Well, our campuses are beginning to be more violent than they've ever been. There's more at stake than there's ever been. I think today we have, through this video, shared with you what we see as the trends, some consequences. I don't think we're prepared for it in America. We don't have all the answers. I don't know if we gave you enough answers to really help, but at least we have tried to do something to bring an awareness of what many people, especially those on the fringes of Satanism, are denying exists. They're saying there is no such thing. Ask those families of 15 dead people in Matamoros. Ask the families of the Night Stalker's victims. It's very real. Are you prepared for it? I'm Dave Reaver. Thank you for being part of this program today.
Yeah, but again,
Thank
the Night Stalker, the Night Stalker was a psychopath. He wasn't a Satanist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, like I said, a lot of people will claim that there's something that they're not, just to either get out of it or to there we go, to just look trendy. And it's kind of sad, because you still see it with other things today that, oh, I did this back in my past because I was this, and now I'm this, so I'm such a better person. And sadly, it's another one of those fun little trends people do just to get away with stuff. Like, oh, I was like this in the past, but I got better. So I found G-Bits, apparently.
Well, that is like the Christian format, is that I was this, and my life went to shit. I lost everything. And then suddenly I fell to my knees and I turned my life over to Jesus. I cried out, or I went to a church. I mean, it's a regular formula that you can just follow, and you can see it in every single one of these stories. And they turn themselves over to God, and then everything in their life becomes better. So they could either be, you know, like an alcoholic, a drug addict, or an occultist, or a fornicator, or whatever. And then they turn their life over to Jesus, and then everything is wonderful again. And it's a story that they do over and over again.
Yeah, and a lot of times you have like these jail, prison confessions, and because they'll know they'll get lighter sentences if they convert to Christianity or Islam or whatever. So,
yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, so all of these confessions that you hear, like that I hear on Now You See TV, it's all the same. That's why I was able to put together that thing Out of Darkness. Just kind of like just use that formula.
Remember when I trolled Now You See TV and I went on there as a gay convert just looking for Jesus, and up to 2 months after I went on their show, I was still getting messages from their followers and stuff like that. It was just, next time I'm going to use a real fake name, maybe wear a mask or something. So
did you get any of asking you, like, you know, like, what are you wearing? Where do you live? What do you like to eat?
I just got tons of messages, and it was just like, okay, maybe I should have used a dummy account. Next time I think I will.
They're like, I'll save your soul.
I'm sorry, there's no saving what little soul I have left. That disappeared when I was 20. I'm sorry. I put it with my student loans and I haven't got it back. So yeah.
Yeah. I had like, I had 2 accounts and I went on to Now You See TV and they kicked me out for both of them. So that's okay. I still watch them. I just don't comment anymore.
Yeah. I mean, they can kick you and everything like that and block you from actually typing, kind of like what I did to somebody today. Mm-hmm. But the thing is you can still watch the video. Yeah. You can still be in there. You just can't interact with them or comment on it, which makes you go, darn it. But at the same time, you can sit there and just laugh, eat popcorn and laugh at them. It's kind of hilarious, actually. I think they still have me where I cannot comment on anything of theirs.
Well, the funny thing about especially Now You See TV is they had this narrative early on about how occultists and witches were involved with the Illuminati and get into this whole grand conspiracy thing. And so that's what they believed. But then it kind of got changed to, it wasn't just occultists and witches, it was Satanists. So Satanists were doing all this and they were involved in the Illuminati and New World Order, blah, blah, all this stuff. And then now, because that the Satanist narrative is going away, now they're saying it's hardcore Satanists, like a secret society group that's not even associated with the Church of Satan. These are like super, super evil. They're like mega evil Satanists. And they're the ones who are going around doing all this and involved. It's just like they keep pushing the goalposts farther and farther. It's like as you eliminate part of their narrative, they have to keep expanding it further and further.
Yeah, all I can think of is Super Satan.
Is that Dragon Ball? I don't know.
It was the Super Devil from Family Guy.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Super Devil. He's not just evil, he's super evil.
I think they're just looking for a new boogeyman to run to or to hide behind or to plot their narrative or their belief and everything too, because when you realize that boogeyman is actually one of the good guys, one of the people who, or groups of people who are helping others and doing the exact same good works bullshit that you're doing, it kind of makes their narrative mute to a point, except for the, if you don't believe in this, your soul's going to go to blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Which honestly is stupid.
Yeah, I mean, they still throw Freemasons in there because, the Freemasons are an easy target. But they claim that because Freemasons, they have the Shriners, which is an aspect of the Freemasons, but they donate a lot of money to charity organizations, like elderly homes, retirement homes, obviously to children's cancer research, and to children's hospitals and stuff like that. And they say that they do this so that they look good, but they're actually using those as places to, kidnap children to use in some kind of sexual orgy or whatever. And it just fits into their whole, the satanic ritual abuse, which especially David Carrico perpetuates, which, by the way, I've contacted them and I've asked them for the most, damning cases that they have of actual satanic ritual abuse. They've never been able to provide me with it. The stuff they provided me with was just like, it was mentioned in the there was one guy who was charged with molesting his children, but there was no actual satanic ritual. It was just mentioned, like the kids were interviewed. the kids were like, I think like 5 and 7 years old. They were really young, and they had mentioned all these things, and the psychologist was saying that that they had mentioned it was satanic ritual, but that's as far as it had gone. So they were making this, not making it up, but they were projecting, thinking that that's what it is when it actually isn't it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we still have like 10 minutes. I know that we only had like 20 minutes of that video to go. Do we have another video that we want to?
Let's see. We have a few in queue. We have The Doorway to Danger, another scaring film. Satanic Ritual, Abuse, and Secret Societies. Devil Worshipping, the Rise of Satanism, 1989.
Wow.
Who's finding our videos, and why do you have the straight narrative, Logan?
Huh? What? What'd you say?
I'm picking on you because I don't remember. We have two others, but we've done those already.
Yeah, that's because Dorian and myself, I think on Halloween, or the show right before Halloween, he was like, what about this video? And I'm just like, add it. And so he added a whole bunch of these videos. Do we have one that's like 10 minutes long or 5 minutes long? Like a little brief one?
The shortest one is 20 minutes long.
Okay, well, we don't have to watch the whole thing. But well, actually, I mean, I don't know. Maybe we only have like 9 minutes left, so maybe we should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the 9-minute one is actually The Door of Danger from the UK.
The Door of Danger. That sounds interesting. And how long is it? 9 minutes?
20.
Oh, 20 minutes.
24 minutes. Yeah.
Oh.
You guys can't find short videos.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I got a question for you, Raul. What do you think is like? Have you ever thought about like what is behind this satanic panic concept, or do you have any ideas, or what are your thoughts about it? Like, what do you think is behind it?
Well, I mean, I think there are different things going on right now than in the past. I think during the 80s, I think it was mostly a therapeutic, well, it was a psychiatric kind of issue. I think you had like these theories about memory, repressed memory, and you had these psychiatrists who were running with that and trying, and they were feeding these memories and these ideas onto these victims of crimes and perpetrating this idea, and it became like a self-fulfilling machine, right? So joined with the kind of Christians in politics, the religious right, who were coming into power at the time. So those two forces kind of combined to create the satanic panic. And right now, because I mean, well, that happened and then that waned off. Now we're seeing a little bit of that creep up again, because I don't know, you have the return of like the Alex Jones types, right? You have with the breakdown of mainstream media, you have the rise of just the independent media, right? And there's a good thing and a bad thing. You have people who have their own voice and they have their own channels, they have their own platforms where they can, spew whatever they want, and that's a good thing for many, and it's a bad thing too, because some people profit off of fears and they perpetuate these myths, and they've got things to sell along with it, whether it's seminars or male vitality pills or whatever it is. So or even political agendas, right? They want to push through on that, and they hit the easy buttons, which are religion and fear and otherness and things like that. So you're seeing, I think, a rise of that now with the rise of independent media. So I think it's going to be up to individuals to have a discriminating ability to distinguish between the facts and try to verify evidence and claims made and look at people's track records on things. And you don't want to try, you don't want to fall back and only trust mainstream media. That's not right too. And they get that wrong too as well. They have their own biases and agendas that they push as well. But I think the power is more on the individual now to do their research, to do their due diligence, and find out the facts on their own with some basic kind of skepticism as a tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's funny. It's like, because like I said, I watch, like, a good example of that is this Now You See TV program. But it seems like what they do is they take all of the ills of society, everything, and they somehow bend it to the belief that it's being caused by this evil force. And if somehow everyone would become a Christian, then this evil force would go away. And I mean, to me, it makes sense in their worldview, but it doesn't make sense in reality, because you have people who do awful things. And if God was so powerful and omniscient, why would he have to go through all this stuff to create evil? Because obviously he created evil in the Bible in the first place. He knows that Satan does all these things. Why does he allow that to happen? And then they say, oh, well, free will. And it's like, and so the whole point of becoming a Christian is to lose your free will and turn your life over to God. But it's like, if God really wanted to eliminate all this, he could have. That's what I always get stuck on. That it's like, it's from their perspective.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's post hoc rationalization of these things, and they have their own ideas on it, and other religions will have their own ideas with it. And in reality, Christianity is not going to be around for much longer, I think. And I think in the grand scheme of things, Buddhism has been around for much longer. I think other religions will come and go. Religions in general, spirituality will come and go in different forms. People will always seek answers, and there will always be a subset of those people who won't look to others and won't look to externalities for those answers, or look into themselves. And I think those are going to be the Satanists, and you'll always see Satanists. Whether if Christianity goes into the dustbin of history, I think there'll still be Satanists. I think that's one thing that people mistake, that they think we're tied to Satan, to Christianity, that we're just the polar opposite. You can't have Satanism without Christianity. It's like, that's not true. I think Satanism is beyond Christianity. It's being the adversary to whatever it is going on in the time.
Yeah. Well, especially, I think from the perspective of a Christian, it's like, I think one of the reasons why they really push this satanic panic narrative is because they believe that if they can prove that Satan exists, then God must exist. And so I think that from their perspective, they think that Satanists are the polar opposite of Christianity. That's what I think that they believe in their cosmology,
Yeah, and in some ways they're right, and in other ways, I mean, you're also seeing some Christians coming to Satanism because they have this idea of this mythology of Christianity. What is? I mean, I think what I'm trying to get at is that there's a conflict within Christianity right now. Like, what is Christianity? Is it this universal brotherly love philosophy, or is it the philosophy of the Templars? Is it this Christendom philosophy, religion of conquest and so there's this kind of bickering within Christianity to figure out what it is. And I think some people are actually coming to Satanism saying, well, actually Christianity is not what I wanted, what I thought it was, and maybe Satanism is a better fit for me. I do see that every now and then. I do see some Christians coming over, not because we've converted them or anything like that, but it's because Christianity lacked those answers, lacked those things that that they thought they they could find in Christianity.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, overall, I thought that was a pretty good show. Like lots of questions answered, insight given, some myths busted. So
yeah. No, it was fun. I mean, I think it was great to have Raul on right when we were talking about all the satanic panic stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw you guys doing these videos. You know, I shot you a message and figured, hey, let's have a chat.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'd
it's
love
always good to have people on. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'd love to have you on again in the future.
Yeah.
You know, we can definitely talk about that offline. But yeah, it'd be great to have you on again. And we should probably wrap it up. But do you want to quickly give like a shout out? I know you talked about some of your shows like Speak with the Devil and Third Side Network.
Well, you know, just I mean, those are the channels of some members. I would just say keep an eye out on the Church of Satan Twitter feed or on Facebook, and we're verified both on Twitter and on Facebook, so you should know what it is that you're looking for. There's also my Twitter page, which is Invisible War, just one word, Invisible War, and I'll post whatever it is I'm doing. I've got my own podcasts and things going on. I'll have my own YouTube thing going up on the official Church of Satan YouTube channel, which is right now not very active, but we're going to be posting more things to it in the coming weeks and months.
Okay, is it okay if I share your Twitter with the chat?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. So I will put that is Invisible War at Invisible War is Raul's, and I'll also put in the Church of Satan too.
Yeah.
If it'll come up. Yeah, so I will put that in there. It'll take me a little bit to get it.
His computer is a dinosaur, I think.
No, I'm a dinosaur. My computer's fine. It just takes me a little while to find it. I have to go through my Twitter feed. But I think it's like at Church of Satan, right? It's not too complicated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Is that what you're looking for? Yeah, it's just at Church of Satan. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's at Church of Satan. So
yeah.
There you go. It's not all that complicated.
You just made it sound like it is.
Of course, I have to overcomplicate things. That intelligent. There we go. All right. So thank you so much, Raul, for being on. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun to have you on, and definitely want to have you on in the future.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And that was a good show, everyone. Oh, hopefully we'll see you all back here, next Sunday or same bat time, same bat place kind of thing. I believe it's Dorian's turn next week. So.
Yep. And I think next week we're going to have a chick track too. So that'll be fun.
Ooh.
That should be fun. Alrighty, with that, blessed be everyone.
All right.
Well, good
night, all.
Good night.